This is one of those moments in the market where history, structure, and psychology are colliding at the same time. Bitcoin is sitting on a level that has defined entire market cycles before, a level that has marked the start of bear markets in the past, but also the launch pad for new all-time highs. At the same time, Ethereum is already giving us signals. Our first entry on the Ethereum trade has now been executed, and I'll walk you through exactly why that entry made sense, how the structure is forming, and also what I'm looking for next later in the video. I'm not revealing the full execution plan yet, but if this structure continues to hold, this trade could define how we approach the entire market from here. So today isn't about guessing tops or bottoms. It's about understanding where value actually exists and how smart money behaves when everybody else is emotional. This is Bitcoin on Point, where I break down the market exactly as it is in real time and how I'm planning around it. In this video, we're going to break down why Bitcoin is testing its last major weekly support on its 200-week EMA, what actually failed on the daily and what levels need to be reclaimed, and how the Ethereum trade is unfolding step by step. If this helps you stay calm in a confusing market, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with anybody who's interested in structure, not just the noise. Now, before we zoom into the charts, let's quickly zoom out to our macro context, which is quietly building behind the scenes. Jack Mallers just dropped what might be one of the biggest statements of the cycle. They're planning to buy over $60 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's not trading it. It's not flipping it. They're buying it. And his words were very clear here. We want to be the largest holder of Bitcoin. That's not speculation. This is a direct race for supply. Now, whilst that's happening, liquidity is also stepping back in. The Fed is set to inject $8.3 billion into the markets tomorrow at 9 a.m. ET. And this is marking the largest single move within their $53.5 billion quantitative easing plan. So, liquidity and supply absorption isn't something to ignore. And that's especially back down at these major support levels for Bitcoin. Now, thirdly, we're zooming into Ethereum for a second because Tom Lee just said Ethereum could do a 100x from current levels. Now, let's be real. This isn't about the exact numbers here, right? What it's about is where Ethereum sits in the cycle currently. It's washed out, right? But it's back at higher time frame demand. So whilst long-term capital start paying attention again, this is where it could see a significant trend shift. So once again, this macro isn't about predicting today's candles. It's about understanding who's buying. It's about understanding who's providing liquidity and understanding where price is reacting. That's why we stay grounded in structure and let the charts confirm the rest. Now, with that in mind, let's start with Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. And this is an extremely important chart, right? I can't emphasize it enough because Bitcoin is now testing its last major support. And we've been talking about this a lot. It's the same zone around 60K, which lines up with the 200-week EMA. And this level has a lot of history. In the past, once we've closed below this EMA, it's marked or signaled the entry into a bear market, right? Into deeper corrections. But at the same time, it's also marked, once held as support, which is what we're backtesting it for now, huge rallies to new all-time highs. So this is a cycle-defining level. It's definitely not a random one, guys. Now, two outcomes exist here. If weekly support fails, price can slide below 60K, and we've been looking at sort of 55 to 50K, right? However, if the level holds, it could very well mark the low that launches the next all-time high cycle. So this isn't a guess the direction zone. This is a reaction zone where the next major trend is decided, ultimately, right? Now, moving on to Bitcoin on the daily time frame, right? But we're getting a bit more intricate here. Yesterday, we was watching for a daily close above our white confirmation level, right? But it didn't happen. Instead, price took the liquidity above the range, but failed to close above resistance and is now rotating back down. So because of that failure, our expectation shifts here, yeah? Now, the most logical move is price returning back into the weekly bullish order block. Because simply put, that's where real demand is existing and where, you know, money is likely to step in, not necessarily in the middle of the range where we are now. So at this point, there's no guessing, there's no chasing. I'm simply waiting for price to come back into higher time frame demand, and I'll observe the reaction at that point, right? Now, a quick note before we go into the lower time frames. All my trades are tracked on Profits Precision, and every real-time update happens live in my Telegram. So YouTube is primarily for the structure, but Telegram is where I execute everything live, including my trades. So make sure you dive into this description and check it out. Now, with that in mind, let's drop into Bitcoin on the 8 hour. And we had two scenarios. Scenario one was a strong impulsive candle to the upside, but as we said on the daily, that didn't happen. And scenario two was price moving up, failing to close strong, and then coming back to take the sell side liquidity, and actually rebalance back in our demand zone. So that's exactly what we're seeing now, right? Scenario two. So a true bullish market structure shift here does, however, still require a clean close above the MSS at near $80,000. So until then, whatever happens, this remains temporarily range-bound price action and liquidity behavior, not necessarily trend continuation, right? So we're simply waiting for scenario two to come back into the order block, and we'll observe the reaction. Now, with that in mind and Bitcoin wrapped up, let's talk about Ethereum on the daily, because Ethereum is doing exactly as we expected. Price has pulled back into the weekly bullish order block already, and the reaction so far remains relatively healthy. What's important here is we're not seeing aggressive continuation to the downside, right? Instead, the price is initially stabilizing, and that tells us something key. The sell side objective has already been met. But, however, and a very big but, just like always, it doesn't mean that when it comes to our trade entries, we should go long blindly, right? If this is a real demand zone, what Ethereum should do here for us is retrace back down and hold the structure on the pullback, right? And if it does come back into the order block, that's where the actual execution for our trade matters. And that's where the 2 hour time frame comes in, zooming in even further for Ethereum. So dropping into the 2 hour, our live updates are as followed. Entry one has been filled at $2,042, and our position size here was 0.5% risk. And that's because we had a potential entry two, which sits around around $1,959, the order block. And now that we've got scenario one, if scenario two comes, we're going to get a good entry with 0.5% deployed again, which will keep our total risk capped at 1%, right? So what I'm initially saying is I don't expect price to break below $1,800. We've got our entry one that's been filled, and entry two is looking like a real possibility now. And that's what we're looking for, right? That's where we're expecting upwards demand. So either way, it's a planned execution, yeah? It's not a reaction. Now, all further management, the confirmations, and the updates will continue to be shared live in my Telegram, so I can't emphasize it enough, guys. If you want to get involved in the action, head over because you are missing out. Now, a quick trading challenge update. This one's very important, actually, because the focus of the challenge has been consistency and not necessarily forcing the trades that we're talking about. So far, we've done 4 trades, and all of them have been closed in the green. The account is roughly 6 to 7% up during extreme volatility. So we're still monitoring and trading this rapidly chaotic market. And all the trades, entries, exits, and stops, and all that sort of stuff are tracked on Profits Precision. You can find everything inside the Telegram, and I use Weeks Exchange because of clean fills, fast execution, and stability when the volatility spikes. So nothing here is hindsight, and everything is updated live as it happens in the Telegram. If this breakdown has helped you, please make sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.